Hello everyone. A few years ago, back in 2020, I put up a dream card of a version of Sting which could be borne by like Bilbo, Sam, or Frodo, and which could give the bearer damage +1. I shared it on the Facebook group, and pretty quickly, people wisely, correctly chimed in that hobbits have a specific design space which is not meant to rub shoulders with damage bonuses a lot because the hobbits are not strong, and in the game thus far that has not been like what they do. So that's all fair, but I still love the idea. So here is a deck which uses completely not imaginary cards. But the idea is, well, what space is there in the game so far to give Frodo a damage bonus if there is no like weapon that he can wield that gives that to him directly? So that's what this deck is going to be about. And I'm going to take a step back a second and talk about just what I'm doing in general here. So I'm hoping to put out a series of videos going through Jank deck techs. And I guess we would have to decide what that term means. For me, it's about taking a rarely used concept or a concept that would be like inherently non-competitive. But then if you're going for that, then obviously it's okay to work as best as you can to make that idea competitive. So for me, it's taking theme first of all, like some crazy idea, and then seeing, okay, how well can I build that deck? Or at least can I build a deck that feels competent and in some way competitive in and of itself? So the jank side of this deck is we're trying to give Frodo a damage bonus. The core concept is that Frodo, facing a world of Terminators, will go out there like Kyle Reese, and with the right weapon and a little imagination, will actually put in some damage. So the first thing we have to do then is actually think a little bit outside of the box. Here's our Frodo. We're going to play plenty of cards on him, so of course we're going to key into this ability to make artifacts, possessions, and Shire Tales played on Frodo -1. And I'm going with the simple common ring here, almost as an attitude towards the deck. The deck is 30 cards each side. It's very lean. It travels light. So I guess this idea of the ring figures into that too. I envision, of course, Frodo getting into a lot of fights, and he can't win them all, and certainly not every game. So when I lose, I think I would rather spend my vitality by putting losses onto Frodo's resistance side, and that's, I think, in the long run, potentially going to spare me more vitality than going with Isildur's Bane, which once you start losing, you're putting on 2 burdens at a time. Now, obviously, this doesn't protect me against archery, so direct wounding decks, I'm not sure. But this is what I'm going with. So yes, thinking outside the box, how do we help Frodo take minions off the board? Which, by the way, and I've said this sort of thing before, is my idea of probably the core competency of any good fellowship. Can it remove minions? So, Frodo, can he remove minions too? Okay, here we go. The very first thing I'm doing is putting Legolas next to Frodo, because, very simply, Legolas will put out 1 damage during the archery phase, all other things being equal. And this version of Legolas, without having to spend his vitality at all, can use the adventure path to generate additional archery wounds. Since we're going with Legolas, I have one other very important card here, and that's the Bow of the Galadhrim, which, if Legolas wins a skirmish, you may wound a minion. So the idea is send someone weak to Legolas, and whoever Frodo is fighting, Legolas wins his skirmish, sends a wound on to the minion Frodo is fighting, and there is your pseudo damage bonus, if you will. And again, this stacks with Legolas's archery, just being an archer. If the minion has already taken a wound during the archery phase, and then you're putting on another one with a Bow of the Galadhrim, okay, the wounds can start to stack. We don't necessarily need Frodo actually having a damage bonus to put a high vitality minion within spitting distance of Frodo actually knocking them off the board. Since Legolas is important, I'm also giving him the Long Knives of Legolas. Each Orc or Uruk-Hai skirmishing Legolas is strength -2. And then the Tale of Gil-Galad. And this is, like, we're not using Legolas's vitality specifically. This is to help him survive things and maybe help him win a skirmish here and there too. So there is Legolas support. In addition to Legolas and Frodo, our starting companions will also be Merry from Over the Brandywine and Pippin, friend of Frodo. Not, in this case, Hobbit of some intelligence, simply because the idea in this deck is to bid 0 at the beginning, like deliberately and intentionally, because we want to use the sight path to our advantage, and after sight 1, let our opponent play that, but play the rest of our sights from there on down. And then a big part of this deck is going to be playing Hobbit Swords. I have 3 here because I just have the 3 Hobbits, and honestly, I see Pippin like dying pretty early on in the game. That is, I imagine that happening to make space for the other companions. But we want to be able to draw into this as soon as possible. It doesn't quite make sense to me to put 4 in the deck because I just don't have the 4 Hobbits, and because we're being, again, lean. The main thing, really, is to draw 1 and to give it to Frodo. And then if we draw the second, give it to Merry. The third is honestly there just for drawing redundancy. I don't see Pippin getting one, but it could happen. In addition to the Hobbit Swords, I'm going to have 3 copies of There and Back again. And Frodo, again, will make these cost nothing, so you can just put them on him for free, and it's all good. But this gives Frodo a nice strength +2. This is giving him +2, so he can be a respectable, 8 strength when he's going out there and fighting minions. And then here's, I guess, the meat and potatoes card of the deck. What we're building towards is the Dagger Strike. Yes, there is design space for Hobbits and for Frodo to have damage bonuses. It's there in the very beginning of the game. On Dagger Strike, make a Gondor or Shire companion bearing a hand weapon, strength +2, and damage +1. That's about it, but in a 30-card fellowship, having 4 copies of this means it's going to show up a lot of the time. One more thing for Frodo, then, is a Mithril Coat. And this is, okay, the ability to reduce the minion archery total by 1 is very important, and we can knock off damage bonuses. But what's really going on here is this line about each minion skirmishing Frodo does not gain strength bonuses from weapons. So this is actually a skirmish winning tool. If you're out there against an orc with a Moria Axe or a Goblin Spear or a Scimitar, Frodo can actually go toe-to-toe with him more because he's taking out the strength bonus of that weapon. So this is to help him win skirmishes more often, not just for the sake of, like, defense. It's not just an armor, though it is, of course, an armor. So if we just imagine sort of our decked out version of Frodo is a Frodo taking away the strength bonuses of minion weapons, and then having his Hobbit Sword, this is messy, for strength 6, and then discarding There and Back again for strength 8. You can give him a Dagger Strike, there's his strength 10, so things are stacking, but we can take it one step further now, without focusing on Frodo specifically. If we put 4 copies in the deck of Boromir, son of Denethor, with 4 copies in a 30-card fellowship, the chances of drawing him early on are pretty strong. And then the extra copies serve the purpose of, like, you can discard them to reconcile, but really, there's probably going to be good opportunities to hold on to him, and then during the fellowship phase, discarding a unique card to heal another copy of that companion with the same name. We're using Boromir's Vitality to make Hobbit Strength +3. We're imagining Frodo. This could apply a lot of the time to Merry as well, because Merry puts on a Hobbit Sword and then becomes Strength 7 instead of just Strength 5. So Boromir is there to help our Hobbits win skirmishes. And then the Saga of Elendil is here for him, not so much for this game text, but really just for the Vitality bonus. we can get more exertions out of Boromir this way. And of course, it's not just discarding Boromir, but you get to a Sanctuary, and maybe you've exerted Boromir 3 times. You can take all 3 off. I mean, you know how the game works. But since we're putting in so many copies of Boromir, I've also gone with like a really full toolkit of support for him, so that when he gets into fights, he stands a decent chance of winning. He is a valuable companion, so you have to pick your battles wisely, I would guess. But here's the Blade of Gondor. Makes Boromir damage +1, and then exert Boromir to wound an orc or Uruk-Hai he is skirmishing. So even against decidedly like losing battles, you can shut it down early, just exerting to kill. This is like, in first block, I think the best hand weapon out there. Boromir gets it. And here's a Flaming Brand. You know, not legal in many formats, but, you know, if we're not paying attention to the X list and admitting that this is jank in the first place, I'm just taking advantages here. The Flaming Brand, even without the Blade of Gondor, gives Boromir an opportunity, being a hand weapon, to use Dagger Strike himself. And that's something important to notice. We'll get into that a little bit later. So we also have the Shield of Boromir, which has a similar text. Each minion skirmishing him does not gain strength bonuses from weapons, so we're helping him go toe-to-toe. And then, yes, taking minion archery total away can be very important against the right or the wrong decks. So we've got a Mithril Coat, we've got a Shield of Boromir, and then we have Boromir being able to heal himself. So if you find that you're against a deck which specifically is looking to use like a wounding strategy, you can pivot away a bit from trying to spend your vitality on winning a bunch of skirmishes, because oftentimes those minions will give you like easy fights because they're just trying to go into the wounding strategy. So you can pivot then to using your vitality to hold on, and then use the resources at your disposal for healing to just heal the, you know, the damage that they're putting at you. But certainly putting Shield of Boromir and Mithril Coat in there can help stop a lot of the storm. And then, since we got 4 copies of Boromir, I'm also giving him Boromir's Cloak in this deck. This deck is skirmish phase heavy. The Dagger Strikes, Boromir, Son of Denethor's game text, say the text of this weapon. We don't want to see Saruman Snows show up and say that, you know, players can't use skirmish special abilities or events. This is situational. This is only going to come into play when we're against, you know, Isengard, and only against those Isengard decks that use weather conditions, but it's good to have there. And if you see it's not relevant, then toss it. But it costs nothing. And Boromir is, again, 4 copies in, so it makes a lot of sense to have it available as a tool. Lastly, we have Aragorn, King in Exile, and again, he can help us with healing. Notice our Aragorn signets, so Frodo's got one, and Legolas has one. I mean, you can just believe me, but I'm going to find it. So there's an Aragorn signet, and Merry is hiding. Hobbits are good at that. Okay, there's an Aragorn signet. So against wounding heavy decks, Aragorn can help us weather the storm a bit. And like, there are flashy versions of Aragorn out there in first block, but I'm not going for the defender bonus in this case because Frodo wants to get out there and fight. Like, he's not trying to hide behind companions. But hold that thought. Since we have Aragorn, we're just giving him a Ranger's Sword. Nice and simple. There's a damage bonus, strength +2. Here's Aragorn's bow, and like, yes, this is a powerful card. If I can defend myself a bit, I'm using it for that off-the-wall kind of purpose of, okay, there's an archery, and that can help wound minions ahead of time, so Frodo's there. But, of course, you know, when the situations call for it, like, you have this fantastic ability at the bottom to just snipe minions when they're out there. So if you need it, you've got it. And then as a final card, the voice of Rauros, Aragorn would say Rauros. I guess Legolas would say that. Yes, exert Aragorn to make each companion with the Aragorn signet, like Frodo, damage +1 until the regroup phase. I toyed with the idea of having 2 of this in the deck, but I mean, I would replace Boromir's Cloak with it, but it's an event, so it doesn't stick around. We want to use it at just the right time, and as an event that gives a damage bonus, it doesn't give you any strength bonuses, so it'll help you capitalize on skirmishes won, but it won't help you win those skirmishes in the first place. So it's a little bit risky, but it does capture the spirit of the deck, so it's totally worth like putting in there to match the theme. And in the right situations, like, I know, like, it says make each companion with the Aragorn signet damage +1. So that includes Aragorn himself, Legolas. Like, when does Legolas get to be damage +1? So that's cool. Merry. So yes, it can splash wide, but really, like, you only need to kill 1 minion with this card to get your value out of it. So just a 1 play in there. I think it's worth it. Noticing then that we have, you know, Aragorn's Ranger Sword and Legolas is out there with his bow and his knives and the Tale of Gil-Galad, and Boromir's got like a whole suitcase of things with him. This was all, you know, perhaps not all, most of it, like, in support of the idea of helping Frodo capitalize on skirmishes won. And along the way, what happened is the companions who ought to be really in the front lines protecting Frodo end up being thoroughly supported to go out there and win skirmishes themselves. In that the primary goal of this deck is to have Frodo win and capitalize, then maybe that goal gets a little bit lost by like supporting these companions well. At the end of the day though, like, mission accomplished. If we can hold to the theme and yet still have the other companions in the deck who are supposed to be doing their jobs well, be supported well enough to support Frodo and also do their own jobs well, then there's a chance this deck is actually competitive. So Frodo can do the thing that we're asking him to do, but our other companions aren't there on the sidelines. They're like really putting in the work. So Aragorn and Boromir both have access to Dagger Strike and can like really win skirmishes well. And then, you know, Legolas will help them win if push comes to shove. And, you know, with as much like, you know, Mithril Coat and There and Back Again and Hobbit Sword, with as much inherent strength as Frodo has in this deck, he can theoretically take on like the strongest minions for the specific purpose of surviving and using his resistance to like tank the damage coming from them, which gives Aragorn and Boromir and Legolas a chance to actually use their strength to knock out the middle and lower tier minions. And that can be a good way to like castle in this game and then take minions off the board. So even if Frodo's not doing it, the other companions are. So there's our idea. Frodo has his damage bonuses. He has archery support from Legolas and Aragorn. He has the bow of the Galadhrim to help him snipe. And then Boromir is there. 4 copies, can exert, turn Frodo into a monster. Lots of good things going on. Let's take a moment to look at our adventure path. We're bidding 0, so this will very often not happen. But hey, if we do go first, bidding 0, because other people bid 0 sometimes too, and things happen, we can get Aragorn from the draw deck. But most of our Gondor support is actually geared towards Boromir, and there's 4 copies of him, so we have a good chance of drawing. And I'm not too worried because this card does very often show up when our opponent goes first. So it's there, but we have a good chance of getting Aragorn. If we don't, again, it's a 30-card fellowship anyways. In this deck, because it's so dependent on Legolas sending out lots of archery, we're going to go, again, the thematic route and try to capitalize on Legolas's ability as often as possible. So give ourselves rivers and forests. And because 9 times out of 10 we are going second, we have an opportunity to play the cards that we put in the deck. So Breland Forest, basically there for the forest. Stealth events may not be played. I'm sad about the fact that it costs 1. I want more chance to play my minions, but it is going to help make my Fellowship Walk on my first turn be pretty breezy. And it's a forest. Here's another forest. And then while you can spot a ranger, the move limit is +1 for this turn. That's risky. But it's there. Who knows? Who knows? It's a forest. I don't want to use the river, say on the Fort of Bruinen, to make Nazgul, whom I am not playing, cost -5. I don't really... Yeah, there are other forests and rivers out there, but this makes sense. Okay, sites 4 and 5, there are no rivers or forests, so we have to go other ways. Aha, 1 more damage bonus for Frodo. Each companion and minion bearing a hand weapon is damage +1. So this is specifically in there to chase the theme of this deck. Give a Hobbit Sword to Frodo, and for 1 site out of 8, he's going to be damage +1. I know there are 9 sites, but you never fight on site 1. And really, if you're doing double moves, this is like 1 turn out of 4, 1 turn out of 3, 4, 5. It's cool. It's fun. It's just in there to give Frodo an opportunity. And since we are going second and we want our sites to benefit our minions, our minion side is going to have hand weapons in it too. So hopefully we can get some benefit from this on the shadow side too. Site 5 is what it always is. Site 6, Lothlorien Woods, Forest. The ability there, each ally whose home is site 6 is strength +3. No relevance really. But there are lots of cards I don't want to help my opponent with. So Lothlorien Woods it is. Is it meaningless? No, it's a forest. So there we go. Legolas, hooray. Then the Great River is a river. How about that? While the Fellowship is at the Great River, cards may not be played from draw decks or discard piles. So none of that is happening in the Fellowship side, and none of that's going to happen in the Shadow side. So this can shut down, say, They Are Coming, Host of Thousands, Uller and Nertia, that sort of a thing. So this can shield your Free People side pretty well. And we have a river. So hooray for Legolas. Here's another river. For each companion in the Fellowship over 4, add 2 to the minion archery total. This is site 8. And yes, ideally, we will have 5 companions on the board after Pippin's gone. Frodo, Merry, Legolas, Aragorn, Boromir. There's a good chance, of course, that if our opponent has been doing his or her job, that, we'll be down to fewer than 5. But, hey, that just means this won't hurt us as much. But against large fellowships, this is going to help the minion side, which, as I'll show you in a moment, is a wounding strategy itself. So Anduin Banks gives us more archery, and if we are playing our site 8, like if we're still playing the adventure path at this point in the game, then clearly our shadow side is the one that needs to be the hero for us. So we want this ability to start shooting at the opposing fellowship. And finally, the Waste of Emyn. Hey, what shadow side do you suppose we're using? Spot 4 companions and exert your Isengard Orc to make the Free People's player wounded companion. Yes, this is directly relevant. This is not a river or a forest, shame, but there's no Pathfinder in this deck, so I'm never playing Site 9 for my Fellowship. If this ever hits the table, it is because it is the final turn of the game, my opponent has moved on to Site 9, and it is do or die. Either my shadow side wins or we lose the game. So yes, as you would imagine, our shadow side is going to be Isengard Orcs. I suppose that's a bit of jank in and of itself, but like I have lots of respect for the Isengard Orcs. I think like they're just stalwart. Their strengths are they have high vitality, so they can withstand like deluges of archery and just like wait there, so it makes double moving hard, but they can also win skirmishes a lot. And then of course their regroup ability capitalizes on if they have vitality left to spare during the regroup phase. Early game, it doesn't look like you're doing much, but as the wounds stack, sights 4 through 6, and then especially 7 through 9, finally when you get onto sight 9, things can take a turn. And this is a really powerful sight. So there's a version in the 2 towers for Isengard Orcs that says the Free People's player only wins if they survive through until both players reconcile. So this doesn't give you an opportunity to use the regroup actions on the Isengard Orcs at the end, but it does let you use their vitality as if you were using their regroup phase ability during the maneuver phase. And what's powerful about this is spot 4 companions and exert your Isengard Orc. You can keep doing this if the Free People's player are low enough on vitality until the Free People's player only has 3 companions left. That still doesn't let you use their regroup phase at their regroup ability at the end. But the point is that if you have enough minions and your opponent's Free Peoples are down to just 3, you're in swarm territory. Like, this is strong. This is a great sight. So here are our orcs. I've got 3 of the Isengard Workers. They are weak, but they can soak archery if they need to. And with our axes and our skirmish events and our Orc Commander, there's a chance that these can like stack the attack bonuses and get to where they need to be. But since they are just 5, they're the ones I have the fewest of. I've just got the 3 instead of the full play set of 4. Of course, regroup, exert this minion to make the Free People's player wound a companion. That's the idea of this deck. So next up then is the Isengard Servant. He's just the next step up. Same ability, 3 vitality, stops roaming at site 4, cost 3. Now this one has strength 7, so chances of winning the skirmishes increase, but most fellowships can handle strength 7. You do need skirmish support out there, but this deck has it. Then 4 copies of Isengard Retainer. So strength 8, cost 4, vitality 3, same regroup ability, nice and strong. This is like bread and butter. These guys are mean, they're great. Then, same thing, just the next step up, Orc Commander. So 4 vitality this time, 11 strength. They are unique, so I've just got 2 of them, and costing 6. You can't imagine playing these guys every turn anyways, but they are really cool. So they make each other orc strength +1. So if there's plenty of vitality on the board, they help support everyone else out there. And then with 4 vitality and strong stats for themselves in the first place, they have a good chance of putting in a lot of damage during the regroup phase. And then Orc Overseer. I've never used this guy in a game before. This would be worth trying out, but 4 vitality, that's great. He costs 1 less than this guy, though he does have 1 less strength. Exert Orc Overseer twice to exhaust a companion. That's situational. Obviously, you use this ability first before any of your other orcs so that you can choose which companion has the most available vitality to attack with this guy. So even exhausting a weak companion, like say an unimportant companion, if they have a lot of vitality, is helpful because you're just playing the numbers game. So if Pippin's still alive and he's unwounded, exhaust Pippin. That's 3 wounds right there. And then Pippin can't shield as much from the rest of their regroup actions. Then I'm playing the full playset of Isengard Axe. This can key off of the Stairway Moria, Steps of Moria, site 4, make our orcs damage +1. But this is just a really nice card. Gives our orcs +2 and then costs nothing. And in fact, adds 1 to the Twilight Pool. It's kind of like a built-in combo of Goblin Scimitar and Goblin Armory. Of course, you're not drawing a card, so ooh hiss. But you are getting the +2, and that's the main thing. And then you're adding 1 back in. This is a really nice weapon. It's nice and efficient. You never have to worry if you have the Twilight for it, and then it helps you gain some back. Isengard Orcs do get a skirmish event in first block, so we're just going to run all 4 copies. you know, it doesn't have great optional text. It's mostly just there for a +2. But the point of events has always been the point of events to surprise your opponent. Keep them guessing. There's a chance this is the difference between a win and a loss, which not only puts a wound on the opposing companion, but spares vitality on your orc to use during the regroup phase. So yeah, we want everything we can available to us to help them win skirmishes, including, of course, our 2 copies of the Orc Commander. So our orcs are beefy, they can last, and they have a good chance of winning skirmishes. Toying with this, I'm putting this in the deck. 1 copy, the Hollowing of Isengard. It costs 4, and it's an investment card that in future turns you can discard to add 3. So yes, you do lose on investment, but obviously there's a purpose for a card like this if there's plenty of extra Twilight out there to use. You can put this down when there's plenty out there, and then use the 3 when there's not a lot out there. Or in early game, like sites 2 and 3, where your minions are roaming and extra expensive, here's something that costs 4, but obviously not being a minion, there's no roaming penalty to pay for it, so you can just put it down there. The card intrigues me. I think it's fun. Maybe this is a jank card in and of itself, but our minions are kind of expensive, 6s, 5s, 4s, that kind of a thing, so could be worth it. Could be total trash. That's fine, that's fine. Okay, rounding out the deck, there's 7 cards left. That was, I believe, 23. And the Isengard Orcs, there's more of them, but not really any that I'm super interested in. So I just round out the deck with 4 copies of Uruk-Hai Raiding Party. And there's no skirmish support for Uruk-Hai in this deck, but 9 strength is stalwart. They have the damage bonus, so that can put pressure on, and 3 vitality. So again, they can help our orcs last too. And then, I don't know, since there is so much skirmish support for our orcs out there, this is just another bit of pressure for our opponent to have to think through. Someone might be able to get through. And if they choose to hurt the orcs, because they're trying to like prevent, you know, the regroup phase wounding, that's a solid strategy. But if they do that at the cost of losing a skirmish to the Uruk-Hai Raiding Party, then at least you get the damage bonus out of it. So, you know, no special abilities here, but the 3 vitality on a 4-cost Uruk-Hai, I think is really cool. And it helps us, you know, not have too much of a weak point in the deck when it comes to vitality. We really want that. That having been said, our final few cards, oh no, do take a step back in vitality. So here are Uruk Warriors, just 3 copies. There's that 9 strength, there's that damage bonus. I'm trading in now the 1 vitality for 1 less Twilight cost. So the same skirmish thread is there, and the ability to have a damage bonus in there. These guys are just efficient, like they're Twilight efficient, so you're getting that 9 strength and damage bonus with the 3 Twilight costs, so that's great. There is this maneuver, spot 6 companions to make this minion fierce into the regroup phase. You usually won't see 6 companions, so whatever. And even if you did, without skirmish support, making this guy fierce may sometimes be the wrong idea, because ideally you want this guy alive at the end to threaten against the double move. So, I don't know. It's worth thinking about. So there's our damage bonus Baggins deck. Go second, bid 0, let your opponent go first. Then you can play the sight path through and through and through. And then hopefully there's a turn where your fellowship can start to climb ahead. I mean, it's a fun shadow side for sure. But just thinking about initiative in this game, your free people side is the part of your deck that is propelling the game forward, and your minions are on defense. So at the end of the game, you do want to be in the driver's seat. Bidding 0 is a poor way to start that off, but it gives Frodo his 10 resistance to start the game with, which makes him super durable. It gives you that sight path advantage, so you're getting the archery that you want from Legolas. It gives you, and this is a strong benefit to going second as a Free People's player, it gives you an extra turn to draw cards. So you're, even if you don't play a single shadow card, you can still reconcile, perhaps twice if your opponent moves on twice. And, you know, hopefully you get to play a card or two if you're not getting super choked by the other Free People side. So it helps you cycle, and then you can start off your walk down the adventure path with kind of an upper hand. You have a stronger fellowship inherently. Unless, of course, you know, you've built a deck that has exactly the site 1 that you want, where your setup really is just like, what are my starting companions, including what I get from site 1. And, you know, that's everything. There's lots to consider there. But I do like going second, especially in the right deck. So 30 cards each, 60 card deck, cycles efficiently, at least in theory, and gives Frodo lots of chances to actually clear minions off the table. Thank you for watching.